Well, you have to forget about all the drama that happened if you're Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs, because there is bigger things at stakes for both Marner and the Leafs. Look, as a player, and if you look at Mitch Marner's situation, being an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, he's had to deal with that all season. He's being asked daily, weekly, hey, what is that going to look long term? Are you going to stay at Toronto Maple Leafs? Are you going to move on with unrestricted free agency? So he's had to deal with it, and he has the tools to deal with it. Why? Because he's on pace for over 100 points, one of his best seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he is a leader with that Leafs club. So I think that Mitch Marner has been able to handle it. Now, obviously, when you have trade protection, and that's something that you negotiated and have the right to, at some point, you may be asked to see if you're flexible with the trade protection and if you want to, allow the team to move you. And that's your right. Your right to say no. But as a player, you always look in the moment. You say, no, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you think about that and that only, and you think about your next game. So I think we can already tell that he's looking forward, looking at the playoffs, and looking at having success on a team that, well, it's only one playoff win over the last 20 years. As the team, though, that is an interesting part, because if you are Brett Treliving and you've already asked or had that discussion with the player about moving from his no movement clause, about allowing the trade to happen, now what happens when you get into the room to negotiate for a long-term deal? I think that the team has to forget much more than the player, because that is a good player, a player that maybe you wanted to move on from, and the opportunity, well, wasn't there because the players had right. So now, does that mean that you have to put a better offer on the table to retain that player when he becomes a free agent at the end of the season? Or do you just move on and say, well, we had our chance, it didn't happen, and we have to move on without Mitch Marner? This is more interesting to me on the team side. Obviously, I was never a general manager. I understand the player's perspective of it. But as a GM, you have to be able to forget that you even asked about potentially moving on from that no movement clause and really focus on the team, putting the best team together and the future of this team. So, yeah, it is going to be interesting how this all falls out with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They go out and they win the Stanley Cup, everybody's going to be happy. They go out and win a couple of rounds, everybody's going to be happy. And nobody's going to remember that this drama happened at the trade deadline. But you go out and you lose in the first round again if you're the Leafs and the fan base and Mitch Marner. And, we could revisit what happened at the trade deadline many, many times after the season's over.